Once upon a time, there was a dying billionaire who had everything money could buy, but nothing that truly mattered. This is the story of how a poor village girl became his last hope for redemption. Chief Samuel Adams sat alone in his bedroom. The room was huge, with tall ceilings and expensive furniture everywhere. But none of it mattered to him anymore. He was 78 years old, and cancer was slowly killing him. He coughed hard, his whole body shaking. The sound echoed in the empty room. No one came to check on him. His hand reached for the medicine bottles on the table beside his bed. There were so many of them. Pills for pain, pills for sleep, pills to keep him alive a little longer. But what was the point? He had no one. The mansion in Ikoyi was like a tomb. Staff members walked through the halls quietly, doing their jobs without speaking. The walls had no family pictures. His phone sat on the dresser, silent. It had been weeks since anyone called him just to talk. Chief Samuel looked around his room. Everything in it cost more money than most people would see in their lifetime. But it all felt worthless now. He had built an empire. He owned businesses across West Africa. People called him chief, a title of respect. But respect and love were not the same thing. He thought about his two children, Tony and Naomi. They had not visited him in years. They did not call to ask how he was feeling. They only contacted his accountant to ask about his business deals. He knew what they were waiting for. They were waiting for him to die so they could take his money. The thought made him feel sick, but he could not blame anyone except himself. He had made so many mistakes in his life. He had hurt people. He had chosen money over love. And now, at the end of everything, he was paying the price. That same morning, miles away in an amber state, a young woman named Mary was saying goodbye to her family. Her mother's sister, the woman who had raised her since childhood, lay on a thin mat in their small house. She was sick, her body weak and thin. Mary knelt beside her, holding her hand. "I have to go, Mama," Mary said softly. "I found work in Lagos. The pay is good. I will send money home every month." Her aunt tried to smile, but it looked more like pain. "Be careful, my daughter. The city is not like the village. People there, they are different." Mary nodded. She didn't want to leave. Her two younger cousins stood by the door, watching her with sad eyes. They were still in school and depended on her. Their father had died 3 years earlier, and Mary had become the one holding the family together. She was 25 years old, but she felt much older. Life had not been kind to her. But she had learned to be strong. She had learned to survive. 2 weeks earlier, Mary had been in the village market when she met Auntie Blessing, a distant relative who worked in Lagos. Auntie Blessing had heard that a wealthy man in Ikoyi needed a house helper urgently. "His personal assistant is looking for someone trustworthy," Auntie Blessing had said. "The pay is very good, Mary. Much better than anything you'll find in the village. I can give you the contact information if you want." Mary had been desperate. Her mother's medicine was expensive. Her brothers needed school fees. She had no choice but to take the chance. She called the number Auntie Blessing gave her. A man named Mr. James answered. He asked a few questions about her experience and told her to come to Lagos for an interview. He never mentioned the employer's name, just gave her an address in Ikoyi. "I will come back soon," Mary now promised her mother. "Take care of yourself." Her brothers nodded but said nothing. What could they say? They all knew she had no choice. If she did not work, they would not eat. She picked up her small bag. Everything she owned fit inside it. One extra dress. A few personal items. A photo of her mother when she was younger and healthy. She walked to the bus station, her heart heavy. Lagos was far away. She had never been there before. But Auntie Blessing said the job was simple. Clean the house, take care of an old man who was dying. Simple. That was what she said. When Mary arrived at the mansion gates in Ikoyi, she almost turned around and went back home. The house was bigger than anything she had ever seen. The walls were tall and painted white. Security cameras watched every corner. A guard stood at the gate, looking at her like she was dirt on his shoe. "What do you want?" he asked. I am here for the job. Mr. James told me to come today." The guard looked her up and down. Her dress was old and faded. Her shoes were worn out. She looked like she did not belong there. "Wait here," he said, and walked away. Mary stood outside the gate for almost 20 minutes. The sun was hot, and she was tired from the long journey. She thought about her mother. She thought about her brothers. She could not go back empty-handed. Finally, a man came to the gate. He was older, maybe in his 50s, wearing a clean shirt and trousers. His face was kind. "You must be Mary," he said. "I am Mr. James. I apologize for making you wait. Come inside." The guard opened the gate, still looking at her with doubt in his eyes. Mary followed Mr. James through the compound. The house was even more beautiful up close. Flowers lined the walkway. Expensive cars sat in the garage. Everything looked perfect. Mr. James led her inside the house and up a long staircase. They stopped outside a bedroom door. "Chief Samuel is inside," he said quietly. "He is not well. He needs someone to help him with his meals and medicine. Can you do that?" Mary nodded. "Yes, sir." Mr. James knocked on the door and pushed it open. Chief Samuel sat in a chair by the window, staring outside at nothing. He did not turn around when they entered. "Sir, this is Mary. She will be taking care of you," Mr. James said. The old man waved his hand weakly, still not looking at them. "Make sure my food is on time. Make sure my medicine is organized. Don't disturb me with unnecessary talk." His voice was tired and empty. Mary opened her mouth to respond, but Mr. James touched her arm and shook his head. They left the room quietly. As the door closed behind them, she felt a strange sadness wash over her. She had expected to work for a rich, powerful man. But the person she saw in that room was not powerful. He was broken, he was alone and was dying. And for some reason she could not explain, her heart hurt for him. Mary spent her first 3 days working in silence. She woke up early every morning to prepare Chief Samuel's breakfast. She made sure his medicine was arranged properly. She cleaned his room while he sat by the window, staring at nothing. He barely spoke to her. When he did, it was only to give short instructions. "The food is too cold. Don't move my things. Leave me alone." Mary did not mind. She had worked hard jobs before. She knew how to stay quiet and do her work. But something about this house felt strange. It was too big and too silent. It felt like a place where something terrible had happened. On her 4th day, Mary was working in the kitchen when the cook, an older woman named Mama Ngozi, started talking. "You are lucky Chief Samuel even hired you," Mama Ngozi said, stirring a pot of soup. "He does not trust people anymore. Not after what his wife did to him." Mary looked up. His wife? Mama Ngozi glanced around to make sure no one else was listening. Then she moved closer to Mary and lowered her voice. "Madam Victoria," she said, almost whispering. "That woman was evil. She married Chief Samuel for money, nothing else. And when she had enough, she stole from him and left." Mary stopped chopping vegetables. "She stole from him?" "Yes. Millions of dollars. She was hiding money in bank accounts overseas for years. Chief Samuel found out about 10 years ago. When he confronted her, she did not even deny it. She just laughed in his face." Mama Ngozi shook her head, looking angry just remembering it. "I was here that day," she continued. "I heard them shouting when Madam Victoria told him, 'You used my father to become rich. You married me for business, not love. So I took what I deserved.'" Mary felt her stomach turn. "What happened after that?" "She left. Took the children with her to London. Tony and Naomi. They were already grown, but they followed their mother like sheep. And you know what the worst part is?" Mary waited. "Victoria poisoned them against their father. She told them Chief Samuel owed them everything. She taught them to see him as nothing but money. Now those children don't care if he lives or dies. They just want him to die so they can take his wealth." Mary felt cold inside. She thought about Chief Samuel sitting alone in his room. No wonder he looked so sad. No wonder he did not want to talk to anyone. Where are his children now? Mary asked. "In London, spending money they don't have. Tony is a gambler. He loses everything in casinos. Naomi has been married and divorced 3 times. Each divorce cost her a fortune. Both of them are drowning in debt." Mama Ngozi leaned even closer. "And you know what they are waiting for? They are waiting for their father to die. Mr. James told me they call the accountant every month asking about the business accounts. They never ask about Chief Samuel's health. Only about money." Mary felt sick. How could children treat their father that way? That evening, as Mary brought Chief Samuel his dinner, she watched him carefully. He sat at the table alone. The dining room had enough chairs for 12 people, but he was the only one there. He ate slowly, his hands shaking slightly. He did not look at the food, he did not look at anything. For the first time since Mary arrived, she felt something more than pity. She felt anger. Not at Chief Samuel, but at his family. How could they abandon him like this? Later that night, Mary could not sleep. She lay on the small bed in the servant quarters, thinking about everything Mama Ngozi had told her. She thought about her own mother back in the village. Her mother was poor and sick, but she loved her children with everything she had. Mary's family had no money, but they had each other. Chief Samuel had all the money in the world. But he had no one. The next morning, Mary overheard Mr. James talking on the phone in his office. The door was slightly open. "No, Tony, your father is not doing well," Mr. James said, sounding tired. "His doctor says he has maybe a few months left." "No, I cannot give you that information. You need to speak to your father directly. When was the last time you called him? When was the last time you even asked how he was feeling?" There was a long pause. "I understand you are concerned about the business. But maybe you should be more concerned about your father." Mr. James hung up the phone and sat back in his chair, rubbing his face with both hands. He looked exhausted. Mary quietly walked away before he could see her. But her heart was beating fast. So it was true. The children really did not care. They only cared about money. That afternoon, as Mary was cleaning Chief Samuel's study, she noticed something. On the desk, there was a drawer that was slightly open. Inside, she could see the corner of a photograph. She should not have looked. It was not her business. But curiosity got the better of her. She pulled the drawer open a little more. The photograph showed a young woman holding a baby. The woman was standing in front of a small house, nothing like this mansion. She was smiling, a real, genuine smile. The kind of smile that came from true happiness. Mary stared at the photo. Who was this woman? And why did Chief Samuel keep her picture hidden in his desk? Before she could think more about it, she heard footsteps behind her. "What are you doing?" She turned around quickly. Chief Samuel stood in the doorway, his face angry. "I was just cleaning, sir. I did not mean." "Get out," he said, his voice shaking. "Get out and don't come back in here." Mary hurried out of the room, her heart racing. She had made a terrible mistake. But as she walked down the hallway, she could not stop thinking about that photograph. The woman's smile. The baby in her arms. The small, simple house. Chief Samuel had a secret. And somehow, Mary knew it was connected to why he was so broken inside. That night, she lay in bed wondering. Who was the woman in the photograph? And what did she have to do with the lonely, dying man upstairs? Mary did not know it yet, but she was about to find out. And when she did, everything would change. For 2 days after the incident in the study, Chief Samuel did not speak to Mary at all. He would not even look at her when she brought his meals. She felt terrible about what had happened. She had crossed a line, and she knew it. But she could not stop thinking about that photograph. The woman's smile haunted her dreams. There was something about that picture, something important. She could feel it in her bones. On the third night, around 11 o'clock, Mary was getting ready for bed when she heard a sound. It was coming from upstairs, from Chief Samuel's study. Someone was crying. She stood in her small room, listening. The sound was painful to hear. It was the kind of crying that came from deep inside, from a place of real pain. She had heard her mother cry like that when her father died. She should not go upstairs. Chief Samuel had told her to stay away from his study. But the crying continued, and Mary could not ignore it. She walked slowly up the stairs, her bare feet making no sound on the floor. The study door was half open. She could see light coming from inside. She knocked softly on the door. No answer. Just more crying. Mary pushed the door open carefully and looked inside. Chief Samuel sat at his desk, his head in his hands. The photograph was on the desk in front of him. Tears ran down his old, wrinkled face. He looked so small and broken. "I'm sorry, sir," Mary said quietly. "I heard." "Get out," he shouted, his voice rough from crying. But this time, Mary did not leave. Something told her to stay. Something told her he needed someone, even if he did not know it. "Please, sir," she said. "You don't have to be alone." Chief Samuel looked up at her. His eyes were red and wet with tears. For a moment, he looked angry. Then the anger faded, and only sadness remained. "You don't understand," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Nobody understands." Mary took a small step into the room. "Then help me understand." He stared at her for a long time. Then he looked down at the photograph again. "Her name was Evelyn," he said finally. "She was my first love. Before I became rich. Before any of this." He waved his hand around the room, at all the expensive things that surrounded him. Mary moved closer and sat down in a chair across from his desk. She said nothing. She just listened. "I was nobody back then," he continued. "Just a poor trader in Onitsha market. I sold clothes and small items. I barely made enough money to eat. But I was happy. Because I had her." His voice broke on the last words. Evelyn was a teacher. She taught at a small school near the market. She was beautiful, but not because of her face. She was beautiful because of who she was inside. Kind, patient, good. Mary watched as he picked up the photograph with shaking hands. "We had a daughter together. Look at her." He turned the photograph so Mary could see it better. "She was just a baby when I left." Mary felt her heart start to beat faster. "You left them?" Chief Samuel nodded, fresh tears running down his face. "A wealthy merchant came to me with an offer. He wanted to make me his business partner. He said I could become rich beyond my dreams. But there was one condition." His hand squeezing the photograph. "I had to marry his daughter, Victoria. It was the only way to seal the partnership. The only way to join our families and businesses." Mary felt cold inside. "So you left Evelyn and your baby?" "I told myself it was for their future," he said, his voice full of pain. "I told myself I would send them money. I would make sure they had everything they needed. I thought money would be enough." He put the photograph back on the desk. "Evelyn never married anyone else. She raised our daughter alone. I sent money every month, but I never visited. I was too busy building my empire. Too busy becoming Chief Samuel Adams, the wealthy businessman." He laughed, but it was a bitter sound with no happiness in it. "I heard that Evelyn died 10 years ago. When I found out, I tried to find my daughter. I wrote letters. I sent messages. I wanted to apologize. I wanted to explain. But she refused to see me. She returned every letter I sent. She sent back every gift. She wanted nothing to do with me." Mary felt tears in her own eyes now. She was angry. "She had every right to be angry," he said. "I abandoned her mother. I abandoned her. I chose money over them. And you know what the worst part is? The money meant nothing. Victoria never loved me. Our children only see me as a bank. I built all of this," he gestured around the room again, "and I destroyed everything that truly mattered. Now I'm dying, and I have nothing. Nothing but regrets." The room fell silent except for the sound of his crying. Mary did not know what to say. What could she say? This man had made terrible choices. He had hurt people. But sitting here, watching him cry over a photograph, she could see that he understood what he had done. He was living with the consequences every single day. "Maybe it's not too late," Mary said quietly. Chief Samuel shook his head. "My daughter is gone. She died 2 years ago. I found out too late to even go to her funeral. She died hating me, and I never got the chance to tell her I was sorry." Mary felt something strange happening inside her chest. Her heart was beating too fast. Her hands felt cold. But she pushed the feeling down. This was not about her. This was about a broken old man who had lost everything. "Sir," she said carefully, "what was your daughter's name?" Chief Samuel looked at her with confusion. "Why do you ask?" I want to know her name. To remember her." He sighed. "Her name was Rose. Rose Evelyn Adams. Named after her mother." Mary felt the room spin around her. Her mouth went dry. Her hands started shaking. But she said nothing. Not yet. She needed to be sure. "I should let you rest," she said, standing up quickly. "It's late." Chief Samuel nodded, wiping his eyes. "Thank you for listening, Mary." It helps to talk about it. Even after all these years. Mary walked out of the study, her legs feeling weak beneath her. She went down to her room and closed the door behind her. Then she opened her bag with trembling hands and pulled out her identity card. She stared at it for a long time, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her chest. The card showed her full name. Her mother's name. Her date of birth. Mary sat on her bed, the card clutched in her shaking hands, and realized that her entire world had just changed. Tomorrow, she would show Chief Samuel the truth. Tomorrow, everything would be different. But tonight, she just sat in the darkness and cried, for the grandmother she never knew, for the mother who had died carrying so much pain, and for the grandfather upstairs who had no idea that his second chance had just walked into his life. Mary did not sleep that night. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, her identity card clutched in her hand. Her mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. Chief Samuel was her grandfather. The man upstairs, dying alone in that big house, was her mother's father. The same man her mother had told her never to look for. The same man who had abandoned her grandmother Evelyn 50 years ago. She had found him by mistake, or perhaps it was meant to happen. What should she do now? Tell him? What if he didn't believe her? Mary thought about her mother. On her deathbed 2 years ago, her mother had made her promise something. Mary, she had whispered, her voice weak. Promise me you will never look for your grandfather. Promise me. He chose money over family. He abandoned us. Some wounds are too deep to heal. Mary had kept that promise. She never searched for him, yet here she was, working in his house as he approached death. Was she breaking her promise, or was this something different? She prayed for guidance and for strength. By morning, she knew what she had to do. Chief Samuel didn't come down for breakfast. Mary found him too weak to get out of bed. "Sir, let me help you," she said, supporting him. "I'm sorry about last night," he murmured. "I shouldn't have burdened you." "Sometimes talking helps," she replied. Her hands trembled. She had to do this before fear stopped her. "Sir, last night, you mentioned your daughter." "Yes. Rose. My biggest regret." "You said her full name was Rose Evelyn Adams." "That's right. Why do you ask?" Mary reached into her pocket and pulled out her identity card. Her hand shook so badly she almost dropped it. "Because," she said, tears already forming in her eyes, "I need to show you something." She placed the card in his hands. Chief Samuel looked down at it. His eyes moved slowly across the words. Then they stopped. His whole body went stiff. The card read, "Name, Mary Amaka Nwosu. Mother, Rose Evelyn Nwosu, formerly Rose Evelyn Adams. Father, Peter Nwosu, deceased, date of birth, March 15, 1998. Chief Samuel's mouth opened, but no sound came out. His hands began to shake so badly that Mary thought he might drop the. "My mother was Rose," Mary said softly. "She married my father, Peter Nwosu. They had me and my 2 younger brothers." Chief Samuel stared at the card, speechless. "She never told us about you," Mary continued. "She only said her father abandoned her and my grandmother. She said he chose money over family." "Rose?" he whispered. "Your mother was Rose?" "Yes, sir." "But how did you come here?" "I didn't know who you were. I just needed work. Auntie Blessing told me about a job. That's all." He tried to stand but collapsed. Mary held him steady. "You're my granddaughter?" he asked in disbelief. "Yes." He reached out and touched her face. "You have Evelyn's eyes. And your mother's smile." Mary couldn't speak. Tears ran down her cheeks as he pulled her into his arms, crying deeply. "I'm sorry," he repeated. "I'm so sorry." Mary held him, crying for Evelyn, for her mother, for this broken old man, and for herself. When he finally let go, he whispered, "Tell me about her. Tell me about Rose." Mary nodded. "She was strong. A teacher, like Grandma Evelyn. She married my father, who was a carpenter. They were happy." "Did she ever talk about me?" he asked. "She said her father left when she was a baby. She told us never to make the same mistake." He shut his eyes in pain. "On her deathbed," Mary added, "she made me promise never to look for you. She was hurt, but maybe part of her still cared. She gave me Amaka as a middle name. She kept part of your heritage alive in me." When did she die? He asked. 2 years ago. In her sleep. I never got to ask for forgiveness, he whispered. I know, Mary said gently. They sat quietly until he looked at her again, this time with hope. But you're here. Rose's daughter. You're here. Yes. Did you know who I was when you came? No. I only realized last night when you said my mother's full name. He studied her face, then nodded. I believe you. He squeezed her hand. Will you stay? I know I don't deserve it. But I'm dying, Mary. Let me know my granddaughter before I go. Mary thought of her mother's promise and how she hadn't broken it. She hadn't searched for him. Life had brought them together. I'll stay, she said. Not because of money, but because you're my grandfather. And no one should die alone. He hugged her again, holding her as if she were the most precious thing he had left. Thank you, he whispered. Mary didn't know how Victoria or the others would react. But for now, none of that mattered. A grandfather and granddaughter, separated by 50 years, had finally found each other. And healing could finally begin. For 1 week, everything changed in the mansion. Chief Samuel smiled for the first time in years. He asked Mary to eat breakfast with him. He wanted to hear stories about her childhood, about her mother, about her life in the village. Mary told him everything. She told him about the small house where she grew up. About her father and her brothers who loved football and dreamed of going to university someday. Chief Samuel listened to every word like it was gold. Sometimes he would close his eyes and smile, imagining the life his daughter had lived. Other times he would cry, thinking about all the moments he had missed. Mary was happy she had a grandfather and she was not alone anymore. But their peace did not last long. On the 8th day, everything fell apart. One of the house staff, a young man named Chidi who worked as a gardener, made a phone call to London. He told Victoria Adams that Chief Samuel had hired a young maid. He told her the old man was spending all his time with this girl, talking to her, smiling with her. Something strange is happening, Chidi said into the phone. I think she is trying to take his money. Chidi did not know the truth. He did not know Mary was Chief Samuel's granddaughter. He just saw a poor village girl getting close to a dying billionaire, and he thought the worst. Victoria listened to every word. When Chidi finished talking, she sat in her expensive London apartment and felt her blood turn to ice. Some village girl was trying to steal her children's inheritance. She called Tony immediately. Your father is dying, and some nobody is stealing everything from under your nose. We need to go to Lagos now. Tony did not need to hear more. He was drowning in gambling debt. He needed his father's money. He could not let some stranger take it away. Victoria called Naomi next. If you want to see any of your father's wealth, you better get on a plane today. Naomi, who had just paid her 3rd divorce settlement and was nearly broke, booked a ticket within the hour. 6 days later, they arrived in Lagos. Mary was in the kitchen preparing lunch when she heard loud voices at the front door. She walked to the entrance and saw 2 people pushing past the security guard. A man and a woman, both dressed in expensive clothes. Their faces were twisted with anger. Where is he? The man shouted. Where is our father? The security guard tried to stop them. Sir, madam, you cannot just. We are his children, the woman screamed. This is our father's house. We can go anywhere we want. Mary stood frozen in the hallway. These were Tony and Naomi, Chief Samuel's children. Naomi saw Mary and stopped walking. She looked her up and down with eyes full of hate. So you're the maid, she said. Yes, I work here, Mary said quietly. What lies have you been filling our father's head with? Naomi took a step closer to Mary. How much money has he given you? What have you stolen? I haven't taken anything, Mary said, her heart beating fast. I just take care of him. Tony pushed past his sister and got right in Mary's face. We know girls like you. Gold diggers who come into people's homes and steal from dying old men. Our father's money belongs to us. Do you understand? Where is he? Tony demanded. Take us to him now. Mary did not know what to do. Her hands were shaking. These people were so angry, so sure she was trying to hurt their father. Mr. James appeared at the top of the stairs. What is going on here? He asked, his voice calm but firm. James, Tony said, trying to sound friendly. Good to see you. We've come to visit our father. We heard he's not doing well. Your father is resting, Mr. James said. And he is not expecting you. We don't need an appointment to see our own father, Naomi said. Perhaps not, Mr. James replied. But I think you should know that your father has not been happy with your absence. He has called you both many times over the past months. You never answered. You never visited. Now you show up without warning? Tony's face turned red. That's between us and our father. Now move aside. Mr. James looked like he wanted to say more, but he stepped aside. Tony and Naomi rushed up the stairs toward Chief Samuel's bedroom. Mary followed behind them, her heart in her throat. This was going to be bad. She could feel it. Tony pushed open the bedroom door without knocking. Chief Samuel was sitting in his chair by the window, reading a book. When he saw his children, his whole body went stiff. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his voice weak but angry. "Father," Naomi said, her voice suddenly sweet like honey. "We heard you weren't feeling well. We were so worried. We came as soon as we could." Chief Samuel stared at them with tired eyes. "You were worried? Where was your worry last month when I called you? Where was your worry the month before that?" "We've been busy," Tony said. "But we're here now." "You're not here because you care about me," Chief Samuel said. His voice was getting stronger now, filled with anger. "You're here because someone told you about Mary. You're here because you're afraid someone is taking your money." Tony and Naomi looked at each other. "Father, that's not true," Naomi said. "We just—" "Get out of my house," Chief Samuel said. "What?" Tony said. "I said get out. You abandoned me. You left me alone to die. Your mother poisoned your hearts against me. And now you come here pretending to care? Get out. We're your children." Tony shouted. Chief Samuel stood up from his chair. He was shaking, but his eyes burned with fire. "No," he said. "You're Victoria's children. You made your choice years ago. Now get out of my house before I have security throw you out." Tony and Naomi did not leave. Instead, they went downstairs and made phone calls. An hour later, they announced they would be staying in the mansion. They claimed they had every right to be there as Chief Samuel's children. The house that had been peaceful for 1 week suddenly became a war zone. Tony and Naomi watched Mary's every move. When she cooked, they complained the food was too salty or too bland. When she cleaned Chief Samuel's room, they accused her of moving things or stealing small items. When she gave him his medicine, they demanded to check every pill bottle. They whispered to the other house staff, trying to turn everyone against her. Some of the workers believed their lies. Others, like Mr. James and Mama Ngozi, stood by Mary. The mansion split into two sides. Those who believed Mary was a gold digger, and those who knew the truth. Chief Samuel tried to protect Mary, but he was too weak. The cancer was getting worse. Some days he could barely get out of bed. He would call for Mary, and she would sit with him, holding his hand while Tony and Naomi watched from the doorway with cold eyes. "Don't let them break you," Chief Samuel told her one evening. "They're trying to make you leave. Don't give them what they want." But it was hard. Mary had never dealt with people like this before. In her village, if people had problems, they talked. Here, Tony and Naomi were playing games, setting traps, trying to destroy her. 2 weeks after they arrived, Madame Victoria came. Mary was sweeping the hallway when she heard a car pull up outside. She looked through the window and saw a black Mercedes. The driver opened the back door, and a woman stepped out. Victoria Adams was almost 70 years old, but she carried herself like a queen. Her clothes were expensive, probably costing more than Mary's entire house back in the village. She walked into the mansion like she owned it. In a way, she had owned it once. "Where is Samuel?" she asked the security guard, not even looking at him. "Upstairs, madam." "But—" Victoria walked past him without waiting for an answer. Her high heels clicked on the floor like a countdown to disaster. Mary stood in the hallway, watching this woman climb the stairs. She felt fear run through her body like cold water. Victoria did not knock on his bedroom door. She just pushed it open and walked inside. Chief Samuel was lying in bed. His eyes were closed. For a moment, Victoria just stood there, looking at him. Her face showed nothing. No sadness. No concern. Nothing. "Samuel," she said. His eyes opened slowly. When he saw her, his whole body went tense. "What are you doing here?" he asked. "We need to talk," she said, sitting down in a chair without being invited. "About your affairs. About your business. About your situation." "Get out," he said weakly. "I'm not going anywhere. Not until we settle this nonsense with the maid." Mary had been standing in the hallway, but now she stepped into the doorway. Victoria turned and looked at her for the first time. The woman's eyes moved up and down Mary's body, judging everything. Her cheap dress. Her simple shoes. Her village accent. "So you're the one," Victoria said. "The girl who thinks she can steal my children's inheritance." "I'm not trying to steal anything," Mary said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Of course you are. Why else would a girl like you be here? You saw a dying old man with money, and you decided to take advantage." "That's not true." Victoria stood up and walked toward Mary. She was tall, and she used her height to look down at the younger woman. "Let me tell you something, girl. I don't know what lies you've told Samuel. I don't know what tricks you've played. But it won't work. This house, this money, this empire, it all belongs to my children. You will get nothing." "She's not a stranger," Chief Samuel said from the bed, his voice stronger now. "She's my granddaughter." Victoria turned around slowly. "What did you say?" "You heard me. Mary is Rose's daughter. My daughter Rose. The daughter I had with Evelyn." Victoria's face went white. Then it went red. Her hands squeezed into fists at her sides. "You're lying," she said. "You're sick and confused. This girl has manipulated you. She's probably not even who she says she is." Mr. James appeared in the doorway, holding papers. "I have the documents right here, madam. Birth certificates. Identity cards. Medical records. Mary Amarkanwosu is indeed Rose's daughter. She is Chief Samuel's biological granddaughter." Victoria's perfect face twisted with rage. She looked like she wanted to hit someone. "This is impossible," she said. "Rose is dead. She wanted nothing to do with you, Samuel. Why would her daughter suddenly appear now?" "She didn't know," Chief Samuel said. "Mary came here looking for work. She had no idea who I was. We found out by accident." "How convenient," Victoria said, her voice dripping with poison. "How very, very convenient." She turned to Mary. "Did you think this would work? Did you think you could come here, pretend to be family, and steal everything?" "I'm not pretending," Mary said, tears forming in her eyes. "I am family, whether you believe it or not." Victoria laughed. It was a cruel sound with no happiness in it. "Family? You're a maid. A nobody from some village. You have no right to be here. You have no right to any of this." "She has every right," Chief Samuel said. "She's my blood. More importantly, she's the only one who has shown me any real love in the past 10 years. You stole from me. Your children abandoned me. But Mary stayed. She cared for me without knowing who I was." Victoria stared at him with pure hate in her eyes. "You always were a fool, Samuel. Weak and sentimental. Fine. Keep your precious granddaughter. But mark my words, she will not see a single cent of your money. I will make sure of it." She turned and walked out of the room, her heels clicking loudly on the floor. Mary felt her whole body shaking. Mr. James put a hand on her shoulder. "Are you all right?" he asked. Mary nodded, but she was lying. She was not all right. She had just made a powerful enemy. And the war had only just begun. Victoria moved into the mansion that same day. She took over the largest guest room and acted like she owned the place. Tony and Naomi followed her lead, treating the house staff like servants and Mary like an enemy. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of Mary's life. Every morning, she woke up knowing the day would bring new attacks. Victoria was smart and cruel. She did not yell or scream. Instead, she used quiet, cutting words that hurt worse than any slap. "Oh, Mary," she would say at breakfast, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You missed a spot when you cleaned yesterday. I suppose village girls don't know how to clean properly." Or she would inspect Mary's cooking and say, "This food is terrible. No wonder you couldn't find better work. You have no real skills." Tony and Naomi joined in the game. They treated Mary like she was invisible most of the time. But when Chief Samuel was around, they would suddenly act concerned. "Father, "Are you sure this girl is giving you the right medicine?" Naomi would ask. "We should get a real nurse. Someone professional." "Yes," Tony would add. "Someone with actual training. Not just some village girl who showed up at your door." Chief Samuel tried to defend Mary, but he was getting weaker every day. The cancer was spreading. Some mornings he could not get out of bed at all. On those days, Mary would sit with him, reading to him or just holding his hand. But Victoria made sure Mary paid for every moment she spent with her grandfather. One afternoon, Mary was bringing Chief Samuel his lunch when Naomi accidentally bumped into her on the stairs. The tray flew out of Mary's hands. Food and broken dishes crashed down the steps. "Oh, I'm so sorry," Naomi said, but her eyes showed no sorry at all. "You should be more careful. You could hurt someone." Mary had to clean up the mess while Naomi watched, a small smile on her face. Another day, Tony cornered Mary in the hallway when no one else was around. "Listen carefully," he said, his voice low and threatening. "I don't care what papers you have. I don't care what lies my father believes. This house was built with my mother's family money. You're nothing but a thief, and everyone knows it." Mary tried to walk past him, but he blocked her way. "You think you're going to get his money when he dies? You are making a mistake staying here." Mary felt fear crawl up her spine. "Please let me pass." "Or what?" Tony said. "You'll run and tell Daddy? He's dying, go. Soon he'll be gone, and then it will just be us. And we don't forget people who try to steal from our family." Finally, he moved aside. Mary walked past him as fast as she could, her heart racing. But the worst attack came 2 days later. Mary was cleaning Victoria's room when she found an expensive diamond bracelet on the floor. She picked it up, planning to put it on the dresser. But before she could, Victoria walked in with Tony, Naomi, and 2 house staff members. "What are you doing?" Victoria shouted. "Everyone, look. She's stealing my jewelry." Mary looked down at the bracelet in her hand, confused. "No, I just found it on the floor. I was going to." "Liar!" Naomi yelled. "We all saw you. You were stealing it." The 2 staff members who had come with Victoria looked uncomfortable. They knew this was wrong. But they also knew Victoria paid their salaries. "Please," Mary said, her voice shaking. "I wasn't stealing. I swear." "Call the police," Victoria said to Tony. "Let them handle this thief." But Mr. James appeared in the doorway. He had been listening from the hallway. "That won't be necessary, madam," he said calmly. He walked over to Victoria's handbag, which was sitting on a chair. He opened it and pulled out the matching diamond necklace to the bracelet. "Interesting," he said. "If Mary was stealing your jewelry, why is the necklace still in your bag? The bracelet was on the floor where you dropped it. Mary picked it up to return it. We all know what really happened here." Victoria's face went red. She had been caught in her own trap. "Get out," she said to Mr. James. "All of you, get out." As they left the room, Mary heard Victoria slam the door behind them. She was shaking from head to toe. "Thank you," she said to Mr. James. He nodded. "Be careful, Mary. These people are dangerous. They want you gone, and they'll do anything to make it happen." That night, Mary lay in her small bed in the servant quarters, staring at the ceiling. She thought about her mother back in the village. She thought about her brothers. She thought about Chief Samuel upstairs, dying alone while his family circled like hungry animals. She could not take much more of this. Every day was a battle. Every moment was filled with tension and fear. Was it worth it? Should she just leave? Mary got out of bed and started packing her bag. She would go back to the village. She would find another way to help her family. This was too much. She was putting her last dress in the bag when she heard a soft knock on her door. She opened it and found Chief Samuel standing there, leaning heavily on his walking stick. He looked so weak, so tired. He should have been in bed. "Please," he said, "please don't leave me alone again." Mary saw tears in his eyes. This old man who had everything but had lost everything that mattered. This grandfather she barely knew but who needed her more than anyone had ever needed her before. "I can't do this anymore," Mary said, her own tears falling. "They hate me. They're trying to destroy me. Every day is torture." "I know," Chief Samuel said. "And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you have to suffer because of my mistakes. If you want to leave, I understand. I have no right to ask you to stay. He turned to walk away, his steps slow and painful. Mary watched him go. She thought about her mother, Rose, who had lived her whole life angry at this man. But she also thought about the man she had come to know over the past weeks. A man filled with regret. A man who had no one else. Wait, she said. Chief Samuel stopped and turned around. Mary walked over to him and took his arm. I'll stay, she said. Not because of your money. I'll stay because you're my grandfather. And because everyone deserves someone at the end. Even people who made terrible mistakes. Chief Samuel pulled her into a weak hug. Thank you, he said. Thank you. As Mary helped him back to his room, she made herself a promise. Victoria, Tony, and Naomi could do whatever they wanted. They could insult her. They could plot against her. But she would not leave. She would stay until the end. Not for inheritance, but for family and for love. Victoria, Tony, and Naomi stayed in the mansion for another month, watching Mary like hawks. But she had changed. She was no longer the timid village girl who had arrived months ago. She carried herself with quiet strength and dignity. When they insulted her, she said nothing. When they tried to trap her, she was careful. Every day, she spent time with Chief Samuel, giving him what his money never could, genuine love. As the weeks passed, Chief Samuel grew weaker. His doctors increased his medication and warned Mr. James privately that the end was near. One evening, as the sun set, Chief Samuel called Mr. James. Gather everyone, he said. Victoria, Tony, Naomi, and Mary. Tonight. An hour later, they stood in his room. Chief Samuel sat near the window, wrapped in a blanket though the night was warm. His skin was pale, his voice thin. I'm dying, he said plainly. The doctors say I have 6 weeks left, maybe less. It's time to be honest about everything. Naomi opened her mouth to speak, but he raised a hand. Let me finish. The room fell silent. I've thought a lot about my life, my choices, and the people I hurt, he said. He looked at Victoria. I married you for business, not love. You knew that. We both used each other. But you broke what little trust we had when you started stealing. I took what I deserved, Victoria said coldly. Maybe you did, he replied. But what's done is done. Then he turned to Tony and Naomi. I gave you everything, schools, clothes, money, but failed to teach you what truly matters. You care more about wealth than people. Tony snapped, we came to see you. You came because of Mary, Chief Samuel said. Not to make peace, but to protect your inheritance. Naomi's face turned red. That's not fair. It's the truth, he said quietly. You've never once asked how I felt, only about my business. Silence followed. He turned to Mary, his eyes softening. Then this young woman came into my life, my granddaughter, Rose's daughter. She knew nothing about me. She could have lied, but she didn't. How do you know that? Victoria asked. Because I've watched her, he said. I've seen her cry because of your cruelty. I've seen her send her wages home to care for her family. She keeps nothing for herself. Mary's eyes filled with tears, but she stayed silent. I've made my decision, Chief Samuel said firmly. My doctors can confirm my mind is clear. He nodded to Mr. James. Bring the papers. Mr. James handed him a folder. Half of everything I own will go to the Adams and Evelyn Foundation, to provide free education and health care to poor families. It's my way of giving back. Victoria sat upright. You can't. I can, he interrupted. It's already done. He took a breath. The other half goes to Mary, my granddaughter, the only one who loved me without wanting anything in return. Tony shot to his feet. This is madness. We're your children. So is she, Samuel said quietly. But she chose love. You chose greed. Victoria rose slowly, her face hard as stone. You're a fool, Samuel. You threw away your real family for a village girl. No, he said. I lost my real family 50 years ago when I left Evelyn and Rose. I've been trying to fix that mistake ever since. Mary gave me that chance. Victoria turned to her children. We're leaving. Pack your things. She stopped beside Mary and whispered, enjoy it while it lasts. Blood always wins. Then she walked out. Tony and Naomi followed without looking back. When the house fell silent again, Chief Samuel's shoulders slumped. Did I do the right thing? Mary knelt beside him, taking his weak hand. You did what was right in your heart. That's all that matters. They'll never forgive me, he said. Maybe not, Mary replied softly. But you've forgiven yourself. And that's peace. He nodded weakly. Stay with me? Always, she said. For as long as you need me. And she meant it. After Victoria and her children left, the mansion grew quiet again. But it was a heavy peace, one that came with waiting. Chief Samuel was dying, and everyone knew it. The next 6 weeks passed like sand through fingers. On good days, he sat by the window and talked with Mary for hours, sharing stories about her grandmother Evelyn, how she laughed at his terrible jokes, loved teaching children, and made the best jollof rice in Onitsha. She had the kindest heart, he said once, gazing at an old photograph. She forgave everyone except me. Maybe she did, Mary whispered. Maybe she just couldn't say it. Chief Samuel smiled weakly. I hope so. I'll find out soon enough. On bad days, the pain was too much. He lay in bed, barely able to move. Mary sat beside him, reading to him, scripture, newspapers, even letters from people whose lives he had unknowingly changed. You did good too, she said. You gave people jobs, built schools, helped families. But I lost my own family doing it, he murmured. What good is helping strangers if you hurt the ones you love? Mary didn't know how to answer. Despite his weakness, Chief Samuel used his remaining strength to prepare for the end. With Mr. James's help, he finalized the Adams and Evelyn Foundation, recorded videos explaining his choices, and wrote letters asking partners to support the cause after he was gone. This is my redemption, he told Mary. My peace. The final week was hardest. Chief Samuel could barely speak. The medicine kept him drowsy, and when he was awake, his gaze seemed fixed on another world. On his last evening, Mary sat beside him as the sun painted the sky in orange and gold. Thank you, he whispered, for letting me be a grandfather. I'm glad I found you, she said through tears. He smiled, a real, peaceful smile. Tell the world, he whispered. Money means nothing if you lose love. It's the only wealth that lasts. I will, Mary promised. He squeezed her hand gently. His breathing slowed, and as the light faded from the sky, Chief Samuel Adams took his final breath, peaceful, forgiven, and loved. Chief Samuel's funeral was held a week later. Mary expected only a few people, but hundreds came, business owners he'd helped, workers whose families he'd supported, students who'd received scholarships, and teachers from schools he'd funded. They all came to say goodbye. Victoria, Tony, and Naomi arrived late, dressed in black and hiding behind sunglasses. They sat at the back, silent, and left as soon as the service ended, without a word to anyone. After the burial, Mary stood alone at the grave with 3 flowers, one for her grandmother Evelyn, one for her mother Rose, and one for Chief Samuel. You're together now, she whispered. I hope you're all at peace. The months that followed were difficult. Victoria challenged everything, spreading rumors that Mary had manipulated a dying man. She contacted elders and business partners, but her lies collapsed quickly. Mr. James and the staff testified that Mary hadn't known who Chief Samuel was when she arrived. The doctors confirmed his mind was clear when he signed his will. One by one, Victoria's efforts failed. Shamed and exposed, she and her children vanished, some said to South Africa, others to London. No one cared to know for sure. 6 months later, Mary returned to her village, but not the same girl who had once left with a single bag. This time, she arrived in a convoy of cars with Mr. James and supplies. Her mother's sister, the woman who had raised her since childhood, was sitting outside when the car stopped. Mary, she gasped. Mary ran to her and knelt. Yes, Mama. I'm home. Her brothers, her aunt's 2 sons stared in disbelief. What is all this? Her aunt asked. Mama, pack your things. You're coming to Lagos. Everything has changed. Lagos? But. Yes, Mary said, smiling through tears. The man I worked for was your sister Rose's father, my grandfather. Before he died, he made sure we'd never suffer again. Her aunt trembled. Chief Samuel was your employer? Yes, Mama. And he was sorry. He died asking for forgiveness. Her aunt wept, not from pain this time, but from peace. Within hours, they packed and left the village behind. On the way, Mary's youngest cousin asked, "Are we really going to live in Lagos?" "Yes," she said, holding his hand. "And you'll both go to the best schools. You'll become anything you dream." When they reached Lagos, Mary led her family into a beautiful home, modest compared to Chief Samuel's mansion, but warm and full of love. "This is too much," her aunt said, touching the walls. "No, Mama," Mary replied. "It's what you deserve. You raised me as your own. You gave me everything." That night, as her family slept, Mr. James said quietly, "Chief Samuel would be proud of you." "I hope so," Mary said. "I'm just doing what he wanted, using what he left for good." 2 years later, the Adams and Evelyn Foundation opened its first school. Children in bright uniforms ran through the gates as Mary's aunt watched from her wheelchair, stronger than ever. Her cousins stood proudly beside her, one in university, one top of his class. "Your grandfather made this possible," her aunt said. "We all did," Mary smiled. "He gave the means, but you gave the strength." Over the next few years, the foundation grew, 5 schools, 3 clinics, thousands of scholarships. Mary worked tirelessly, turning wealth into hope. Then a letter came, from Naomi. It read simply, "I'm sorry. You were right. Father made the right choice." Mary forgave them. She even shared part of the inheritance, not from obligation, but compassion. 5 years after Chief Samuel's death, Mary stood at 3 graves. Evelyn, Rose, and Samuel, now side by side. "You taught me something, grandfather," she said softly. "It's never too late to change. To choose love over money. To do what's right." She placed flowers on the graves. "Your name will be remembered, not for wealth, but for the lives you changed." A gentle breeze passed. Mary smiled. 3 souls, finally at peace, a man who found redemption, a woman who loved faithfully, and a daughter who passed on strength. "Thank you," Mary whispered, "for teaching me that true family isn't about blood, it's about who stays, who forgives, and who loves." She turned and walked away with her family and Mr. James beside her, ready to continue the work, ready to honor the past. Because Chief Samuel had been right all along. Money means nothing if you lose the people who love you. But love lasts forever. Love changes everything. And in the end, love is the only inheritance that truly matters. What did you learn from this story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. A brand new story is coming in just a few days. It's deep, emotional, and full of lessons. So please subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss it. If this story touched you, don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends and family. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate you. See you in the next one.